Welcome to my Developing Tomorrow's Leaders website. I'm very excited to share this website with you. This website means a lot to me because it captures a lot of the thoughts and practices and tools and resources that I have used in developing my leadership development program at my work. When I first started building the program, I realized quickly that there is not a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of third-party resources, but in terms of tools or guidance onto how do you even begin putting together a leadership program, that was really lacking. And so my site is geared towards learning leaders who are in the same position that I am, who are trying to put together leadership development programs, don't know where to start, maybe need a little bit of inspiration or guidance or tools or resources to get them going. And so there are three main sections of my website: leadership analysis, developing leadership support, and tomorrow's leadership skills. This is an area that I really wanted to focus on a lot, is because much of the research that I did out there focused on what leaders need today, what are the skill sets and competencies that they need, but they really don't talk about leadership skills for tomorrow. And so you'll see a lot of my research is around that. Let me tell you a little bit about how I've set up each of the pages. Each of the pages does have a repetitive feel to it because I really want people to get comfortable with it and focus more on the content versus really learning how to navigate through each page. And so if you look at this main section, this main section will always have a video that inspires them around leadership and leaders who are learners. There's also a blog. This is one of the ways that I wanted to use technology to engage with my audience. And so I've started a leadership blog that actually blogs my journey as I've created the leadership development program. Also, there's a monthly best practice, and you'll see on each of the pages where I ask them for what are their best practices as it relates to that skill or that area. And that way they can keep engaging and sharing with each other, because I really want that to be part of the experience as well, that we're all creating this together and we're all learning from each other. So let's look at each of the different main sections that I have. Here we have leadership analysis. And if you scroll through this, there will always be a little bit about why a leadership analysis is needed. There will be tools and resources as well. Tools will always be resources or job aids or exercises that you can do that I've used myself that will help them at least get started. It's not everything that they need, but it'll get them started. And then resources is really about providing them books or videos to continue that learning around that particular topic. Here is something that's always going to be repetitive that I talked about earlier, and it's sharing a featured best practice around each of the different pages. So on this aspect, it's leadership analysis. And then as I curate that, that's how I actually create the monthly featured best practice for each month. So let's click here on the tools just to give you a sense of what the tools are about. The tools is really around providing them some different tools that they can use as they continue to develop their leadership program. The assessment approaches is one area that I really enjoyed researching, and there was a lot of research by Gary McLean in terms of the different assessment approaches that are out there that you should consider, and advantages and disadvantages of that. And I wish I would have had that when I actually did my first initial leadership analysis. It's really, really quite good. And then I also talk about assessment best practices and also some additional leadership analysis that you need to do. In addition to that, there's analysis resources, once again, books or videos. Let's go over to developing leadership support. Once again, it's a repetitive aspect, but here I provide some additional tools for them to really help them understand that there are different teams that you need in order to make sure that your leadership development program is successful. And many people may not be familiar with steering committees, advisory teams, or communications teams, and so forth. And so I provide them some guidance in terms of roles and responsibilities of those teams and time commitments. So if that is something that you want to incorporate within your leadership development program, that you actually have a good way to get started on that. Once again, we have tools and resources that they can check out. I'd like to move over to tomorrow's leadership skills, because that's where a lot of my research is really looking at what are those skills that are needed for tomorrow. And I found a wonderful website or video, done by Dell on the top 5 skills that are needed for tomorrow's leaders. From that, here are the 5 skills that are needed: creativity, logic, emotional intelligence, digital literacy, and objective judgment. Each of these is a link to a video that continues that thought process around what it is to have a creative leader, or a leader who has logic or emotional intelligence. And digital literacy is huge. This is where I explore a little bit more in terms of social media tools that leaders should be using if they want to be competitive in tomorrow's landscape. And that is something that isn't talked a lot about in regular leadership development programs. And there's a lot of research that is around social media skills and how important it is that leaders develop those. In addition, I took it one step further in terms of tools to really help them take it one step further in terms of exercises or activities that they can use with their leaders to really hone those skills even further. And so we talk a little bit about why social media now, and so a social media assessment that you can actually use to see what tools or social media tools that your leaders are actually using, and then take it further into a workshop. In terms of leadership skills resources, this is once again a lot of really great books on those 5 topics of where leaders need to take their skills, along with videos and podcasts associated with those same skill sets as well. When I talk about third-party resources, there always will be third-party resources that can help a learning leader build their leadership development program. And so I really wanted to highlight, some of the ones I've been able to look at and explore and sometimes even use. This obviously is not the full list of leadership resources that are out there, but at least gets them started in the right direction of some pretty notable programs. Along with leadership books, I think that's always important that learning leaders keep on top of what are some of the leadership books that our leaders are reading so that you can connect with them. And speaking of connection, it's always important to also be networking with other leaders so that you can continue to stay on top of what is burning and what are some of the needs of our leaders. Conferences is a huge one where I wanted to make sure that learning leaders are getting engaged with conferences that they may not always be accustomed to, because these are leadership conferences. So if you want to make sure that you're relevant and credible in front of your leaders as you're building a program for them, it's important that you stay connected to the conferences that they're going to and learning about what they're learning about. So that is my site for learning leaders who are developing leadership programs. I'm very excited about this, and thank you so much for visiting my website, and I look forward to continuing to get some feedback from my peers. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.